Hello and welcome to Book 11 of the Aeneid. Let's begin. So we start the book with Aeneas paying respects to the gods following his victory over Mezentius in the last book, even though while he's doing this he is very anxious to bury all his friends because their bodies are just kind of there and he doesn't like it. So to pay his respects he cuts off some branches of an oak tree and hangs Mezentius's armour off of them and is like, "Gods, that is yours. Have fun with that." Then he turns to his army and is like, "Okay, good start to the war, lads. I know that a lot of us died, but we've also made some pretty good progress, considering, especially killing off one of their main commanders, Mezentius. Like, we all know how bad that guy was, and I killed him, but I like to think that it was a team effort, so well done, gang. But before we celebrate, let us first bury the rest of our comrades and send Pallas's body back to Evander, because we said that we would do that if he died." And while he's doing this, he is crying the whole time, which makes sense. Who can blame him? So he then goes to the place where Pallas is being kept, or his body is being kept, and all the women in there mourn even more when they see Aeneas enter, and he weeps over Pallas's body because of his untimely death and his guilt over not keeping his promise to Evander to keep the boy safe, because Pallas is really young and Aeneas is not so young, so he feels a very big sense of responsibility for this kid, and the kid's dead, kind of because of him, because Turnus was going to kill Aeneas, but he saw Pallas first, so there's a lot of emotions going on there. And then he sends Pallas's body off with a grand procession, including the human sacrifices. Remember when he was going to do that? Yeah, that's still happening. And he sends them off to Evander and watches them go off into the distance before going back to his own fortifications. He's then approached by some Latin envoys from the place of the Latins, can't remember the name, go me, and they're carrying olive branches of truce with wool on them, and they ask for their dead so that they can bury them too. And Aeneas is like, of course, that's like totally fine, like, but like, can I just say that like I never wanted this war in the first place? Like, can I just make that clear now? It was kind of your king who started it by trusting in Turnus and letting Turnus kind of go all haywire on us, so like, just so you know, I would have never harmed your people if they had an attack first. Like, no offense, it's kind of on your people and Turnus. And the envoys are like shocked at this because like they had no idea that the Trojans had no intent on fighting in the first place. And Drances, the older one who really hates Turnus with a burning passion, who can blame him, is like, "Wow, I'm like really glad to hear you say that. I'll tell Latinus and ask him to figure out a truce because like Turnus is a bitch." And I don't like him. And like, if Turnus tries to get all uppity about it, he can have whatever opinions he wants, but I will try and fight for a truce. And then they decide to have a 12-day truce to bury all their dead, and it's very nice. But there is trouble in Evander's kingdom as rumour hits that Pallas has died. And sure enough, there's a lot of mourning when his body arrives to the city. And Evander sees the body and throws himself onto his son's body and mourns outliving him and having to see his son dead, saying that like his mum was lucky to have died before she could see his son die, and making it clear that he no longer wishes to live any longer. It's so sad. And then we cut back to the war ground, and both the Trojans and the Latins proceed to burn and bury their dead, with the Latins cursing Turnus' name for starting the war in the first place, and recognising that it was only the Queen's favour for him that kind of ensures that he was allowed to like start the war in the first place. They then get a message from Diomedes that the Latins will no longer be reinforced by them due to them realising that fortune has kind of turned against them and in favour of the Trojans, and also accuse them of not understanding the war they are fighting in fully, which distresses Latinus quite a lot because Diomedes, I think that's the name of the guy who rules it, he was like a really big like Trojan fighter in the Trojan War, so like this is a lot of support they're losing. And Latinus expresses his wish not to fight with the Trojans and instead suggests giving them land to settle on in a treaty, or at least to help them find land to settle on, because then they can finally have peace, which is all he wanted in the first place. And then Drances speaks up and is like, "Alright, I've had enough of you, Turnus. And this is just kind of proving my point. The only reason you want to continue this war is to marry Latinus's daughter, which, in my opinion, is not really worth a whole war. No offense to Lavinia. So, like, can you stop thinking with the dick and stop your bullshit and agree on a peace? Because that's all that anyone wants. It's just getting annoying now. And then Turnus is like, oh, okay, sure, cool. Call me a coward. Call me, like, an idiot for starting this war when I've been the one fighting the whole time against the Trojans who have been attacking us, while you've been, like, sitting on the sidelines with Latinus and not doing anything. So, like, and also, like, let me remind you that I just killed the heir to Arcadia and have destroyed a whole ass bloodline. As far as I know, Evander ain't got no more children, so Arcadia's done for. So I think that's a victory on our part. Also, we have, like, other allies, so, like, why are we complaining? But, you know what? If Aeneas only has beef with me specifically, then I would be more than happy to duke it out with him, man on man. But don't you dare start calling me things that I'm not, because I won't have that. And then a messenger comes in to inform them that the Trojans are starting to march on them, and Turnus is like, what did I say? And Latins prepare for a battle in a panic. Latinus stays and blames himself for the war, while the Queen and Lavinia go to pay respects to the Temple of Pallas. And Lavinia is looking real sad because she knows that the war is technically about her and she's not cool with that. And then Turnus meets Camilla, who is the leader of a group. I will put what they're called on the thing when I edit it. Go me. And she's kind of like a Amazonian queen, kind of, except she doesn't rule the Amazons, but she's like, there is an Amazonian queen in the Iliad, and I think she's kind of supposed to represent that. And she tells him to guard the city while she leads the first attack, and he's like, that's a great plan, but can we instead have me do an ambush on Aeneas and you guard it? And she's like, okay. And Diana watches Camilla and laments to Opis, telling her Camilla's story of how her father died. Not how her father died, how her father fled his city with her, dedicating her to Diana in order to ensure her safety, and raising her in the woods to be a warrior, which then led her to becoming a devotee to Diana, and then her father probably dies afterwards. And then Diana asks Opis to protect Camilla's body after she is fated to die, and to avenge her by killing whoever eventually kills Camilla. So in the battle, Camilla kills a lot of men while leading the defence and manages to kill the two tallest men. So one up on Aeneas in the last book. But she is almost tricked to fight off her horse, but then she sees the trick and she gets back on, and she's like a bad bitch. But then while pursuing Chlorius, who's a former priest with a lot of fancy gear on, Aaron sees his chance and kills her with his spear, and with a blessing from Apollo, which I'm sure pisses off Diana even more. Aaron then runs off in a panic, sensing that something is probably wrong with killing Camilla and that something bad is probably going to happen to him, while Camilla turns towards Acca, her friend, and tells her with her last dying breath to tell Turnus to return to the city and defend it, and then she dies in her arms. And Opis, meanwhile, hears of Camilla's death and waits at the tomb of Dercenus for Aaron's, and she spots him running away and goes, hey, stop running so I can kill you. Beat your fate. Come on, fight me, you little bitch. And then she shoots him dead with her arrow, leaving him to die alone, just like he deserves. Booyah. Then the Latins and the Rutulians flee back into the city as the Trojans gain the upper hand after the defeat of Camilla, and Turnus goes back to the city after hearing the news just as Aeneas reaches the place of ambush. How tragic. And they would have fought, but it was bedtime and they all had to go to bed. And then that's the end of the book. So I will see you all next time for book 12 of the Odyssey, and then after that, book 12 of the Aeneid, the final book. Woohoo! So I'll see you guys then. Bye!